Well, South Carolina baseball, they're able to bounce back with 2 straight wins, take the series against Clemson, and improve now to 11-1 on the season. But most importantly, they're able to take the series against the Tigers. Mike Uven alongside me is Collyn Taylor. And Collyn, big win today, of course, and that's where we're going to start. But just to be able to get the series win against Clemson, it's always a good feeling when you're a Gamecock.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a huge series for this state. It normally is in the big college baseball world, too. Huge to come back. You find yourself in your first real stint of adversity. You lose Friday night. You don't play all that great at times, but you find a way to get the tying run to the plate. It doesn't work, and you bounce back. You have a dramatic come-from-behind win on Saturday. You clinch it with a dominating victory today. Fantastic all the way around for South Carolina. The first time since the 2011-2012 academic year where South Carolina has beaten Clemson in football, both men's and women's basketball, and now baseball. I was in high school the last time.
That's that. Look at you.
So, yes, and the first time since 2012, South Carolina's lost the first game in the series to then come back and win the next 2 to win the series. So, something that South Carolina hasn't done in a decade, and something that you hope if you're South Carolina you can kind of continue to build on.
So before we look big picture, let's talk about this performance on Sunday. You come in here, I know you and I were talking before we got to the ballpark. You knew Clemson's bullpen and just arms in general, they were going to be thin. And if you wanted to be able to win today, you felt like from an offensive standpoint for the Gamecocks, score early, score often, and they did exactly that.
Absolutely, and this is a team that in the loss Friday, you didn't see a whole lot of power. And through the first 5 or 6 innings on Saturday, the power wasn't there either. And then you get the big Carson Horning home run. You get a Caleb Denny double. You start to see that. And I want to say 5 of South Carolina's first 6 hits today were extra base hits with, 2 mammoth home runs from Gavin Casas, another one from Talmadge Lee Croy. You had a double from Braylon Wimmer, another from Caleb Denny. The power started to show up, and that's what you got with South Carolina. And this is an offense that could have said, we know their bullpen's not deep right now. Let's take some pitches. Let's work some counts. No. Cole Messina, first pitch RBI single in the first. Gavin Casas, a first pitch home run in the second. They did work some counts, but they were aggressive when it was time to be aggressive, and you saw the results. They scored, most of their runs in the first 5 innings, scored in 4 of the first 5. Really impressive day, and it's an offense that, when it's clicking, can come at you in waves, and you saw that today.
I want to make sure that 4th inning is when we saw the offense just absolutely come alive.
And they missed a couple.
Home runs. There were some that reached the warning track. When you mention Casas, though, and that's the one that really stands out, the performance obviously today, hits 2 home runs, and he mentioned it after the game. They took a chance on him. He reached out to them. They took a chance. He was coming off an injury. What can you say about this young man? 7 home runs already on the season, but to be able to deliver when you're small sample size, still beginning of the year, but he's been able to do it over and over again.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a guy that he's doing the power stuff that you thought he could do. He's playing a good enough first base for you as well. This is a guy that South Carolina's needed in the middle of their order. And they had that last year with Josiah Seitler, but there just wasn't enough around Seitler for them to have to pitch to Seitler, time in and time out. With Casas, he's willing to take those walks. I believe he has a close to, a strikeout to walk ratio close to 1. Before today, I think he walked more than he struck out, but right there around the same thing, because you have a Talmadge Lee Croy hitting behind him. He had 2 big hits today that drove in runs. Because you have pieces around him to where they have to pitch to Gavin Casas. And because of that, he's getting pitches to hit. And when he connects, he's got a chance to really hit one far. So that's the thing, is that it's not just, boom or bust with him. He's willing to take some walks. He's willing to, pass the baton and give it to Talmadge Lee Croy and Ethan Petrie, whoever's hitting behind him. And you've seen the results so far. And, SEC pitching's looming in a couple weeks. But you've really hit the lotto with bringing Casas in to pair him with the talent you kind of already had on this roster.
Well, let's talk big picture now, right? You're able to win these last 2 games of the series. The way they fought back in Game 2 to be able to hit those, especially those late home runs, 7th and 8th inning, got things going more than anything. What did this weekend teach you about this club? We heard, and you mentioned the word adversity. We heard Mark Kingston bring it up. He's like, this is the first time really this season that we've had to deal with any type of adversity, and they were able to respond back in the manner in which you hoped they were going to.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I will say is, even Mark Kingston talked about this post game. There's been a shift in maybe philosophy with him a little bit too. There have been times in tenure where he's treated this like life and death, and at times you have to because you're going to be in high pressure situations. But he didn't. He kept it loose. He was really loose Friday night, even after a loss. He was, and it paid off. You won these next 2 games. This is a team that they really made an emphasis on being more veteran, being more experienced. You brought in experienced hitters like a Caleb Denny, like a Will McGillis, like to a degree Gavin Casas. You have these freshmen that played a ton for you last year coming back. You have some pieces offensively coming back. Your Braylon Wimmers, more headlining all of that. It's a team that right now, as we sit here 12 games in, you're 11-1, a team that understands how to win, what winning looks like, what day-to-day looks like when you're part of a successful team. And they've passed every test so far because they're older. They've seen a lot of baseball. They understand that you're down 4 runs in the 7th, anything can happen. So that's where I've seen this. This is a team that understands what winning looks like and how to play it, and we'll see what that looks like. They're not a finished product by any stretch of any imagination, but a really quality series win and a chance to get to potentially 15 wins before SEC play starts in a couple weeks.
You mentioned being able to win. And I know that what I say right now, there's going to be people that just don't care. They want to see the end result, and that end result is how far does this team go? On Friday, there were a lot of people that were ready to, hey, you know what, get Kingston out of here. I mean, we've been seeing it the last couple of years, okay? They answer back, though, with not just 2 wins, but 2 sound wins, all right? It wasn't like they just got handed the wins. They did some really good things these last 2 days. What would you just tell people right now? Again, I understand there's probably things that we're going to say right now that's not going to change their minds. And I'm not trying to tell you like, hey, okay, this is, pro Mark Kingston, pro that. I understand the frustration. I totally get it, okay? It's not just one season. It's everything in a vacuum. But at the same time, too, 1 game on Friday. It's 1 game. And this team answered back, and I feel like they showed us more than anything who they are. Again, I'm not saying, okay, get your tickets ready for Omaha, but I feel like they showed us who they were these last 2 days, and what we saw on Friday was more of a fluke than anything else, other than just the fact that it's just baseball. It's going to happen.
Yeah, you got a very substandard outing from your ace, Will Sanders, who just got hit hard. Your defense didn't play well. Offensively, you struggled. Those days happen in baseball. No team's going to go 56-0, and this is a South Carolina team that wasn't expected even at the beginning of the season to be a regional host, but they find ways to win. And yes, I understand completely that there's still 30 league games to go. 12 games a season does not make, but enjoy the winning when it comes. Enjoy these things because we've seen this team not win games. We've seen this team finish below 500. It's programmed over the last couple years. Enjoy the winning because that's where the joy comes in. We watch sports and you're a fan of teams to see them win. Enjoy it, especially when it's against a rival. So, yes, are they a finished product? No. Are there things to work on? Yes. Will this team look different in 4 weeks, 5 weeks than it does right now? Absolutely. Do I know which way? No, because, the seasons are typically roller coasters at times. So enjoy the winning. I understand the argument of wait until SEC play, but if you're South Carolina, you're 11-1, you have a chance to you're a top 25 team right now. Enjoy it and understand that there's potential for this team to not only play well in the league, but also play, get into the postseason and potentially make some hay there just because of the pitching and the power that you have.
Before we put a bow on this, before I go blind here, I've kind of been like my, solar eclipse here. Obviously, big win for Monty Lee. You think about Frenchie, you think about all the Clemson guys that came on over, Brewer, right? But in terms of just this rivalry when it comes from a recruiting standpoint, because I feel like, look, not to get too sidetracked, but you think about football, right? Clemson has been so dominant for such a period of time where they've been able to recruit on a national basis. USC's been doing a good job football-wise. And again, I'm not trying to get too far sidetracked, but what I'm trying to get at is from a baseball standpoint, it feels like it's always been fairly even, right? And when you were trying to recruit, what can a series win like this for South Carolina? What can it do from a recruiting standpoint, and what can this do from a program standpoint in the short term?
Yeah, short term baseball recruiting is unique because you fill out classes 3 or 4 years in advance, but it certainly helps you when you're winning. You're winning this rivalry, and you're competing not only to win the rivalry, but competing to be hosts, a top 16 host. And so this rivalry is great. You win this game, it's great. But now it's about what you do to build on that. And I think that that's what's going to show longevity if you're South Carolina in recruiting, whether that's at the junior college or transfer portal level from the immediate standpoint. But huge win for South Carolina just series-wise today for the perception of this program, from the fact that they were able to do what they were supposed to, because on paper they were a better team than Clemson. You come out, you win this series, you do something you hadn't done in a decade, and you find a way to now go into this week with a 2-game win streak. You see it snapped, and you go win 2 straight. So big for this team.
Well, if you see Collyn Taylor and I just around town, we kind of look like one of those like chocolate vanilla cookies, right? Like half, we might have like half a sunburn on the right side. If you're not a subscriber to Gamecock Central already, head on over to GC. Sign up today for just $29.99 through August 31st to get not just baseball information, but football, basketball, and everything else in between. He's Collyn Taylor. I'm Mike Uva. That's a story here from Founders Park.